In the last couple days, you might have heard that Unreal 5 has been announced. It is out for developers to grab a hold of, as well as you yourself if you want to make some games. However, that has caused some concern with some game players, some people who are a little bit worried about Unreal stepping into this and if there's a consolidation going on. I'm going to talk about that. I want to talk a little bit about the Unreal migration itself, the Unreal presentation, and the announced multiple different companies starting to use this engine for game development. The first thing to discuss is, if you like the video, hit thumbs up, share it, comment on it, check out the Reddit if you want to continue to discuss this. The second thing to take away from this is the idea that Unreal is just sucking up everything and that there aren't other game engines. And that second part is patently false, though it does reflect a growing worry about what kind of engine consolidation we do have, and I'll talk about that in a second. Let's just jump currently into this and look at it. As video game creation engines are out there, you do see a lot of titles on different engines. You have proprietary engines like Frostbite, but you also have engines that people can end up buying or licensing, such as CryEngine. You've got Unity, GameMaker. I think Amazon Lumberyard's still out there as an offshoot, and a couple others. And if you want to look up some of the podcasts where I've talked about these various engines with developers who've worked on them, you can just easily look up any of the time I've had the Vermintide devs on, because they use their own engine, and we've talked a little bit about it with Victor as well as others. So coming away from this announcement, Unreal 5 is announced. You have some other people, including the Tomb Raider devs, saying we're going to start using Unreal. I want to talk about this. It's best to understand that the Unreal Engine already had a good deal of companies working hand in hand with them for a while. The reason for this is that that engine, especially in the last 2 iterations, has made substantial strides to assist developers. Regardless of anything else you may think, somebody like myself, I'm consistently playing with engines so that I understand what developers are trying to do, so that I can follow along, and because I want to create some stuff. And that engine in particular has made massive leaps, certainly in the last 6 to 7 months, coming to real grips with that Unreal Engine and what it can do and its beta. I gotta say, there's a lot of stuff that's highly impressive. Unreal 5's release comes with a bit of pomp and circumstance though, and so Epic wanted to roll some people out to hit people with something a bit less dry than, hey dude, new version of our engine is, well, live. That's like a brand new race car coming out and everybody spending 2 hours arguing over the tires. So having a couple companies come out and talk about what they're doing makes perfect sense. So while consolidation and any kind of control that may offer a company, in particular Epic, or any kind of meet in the middle results we may get from games, which are worries that I absolutely have right alongside you, I personally believe that what we have seen and what we have more examples of is that specific engines from many of these companies are more problematic. From Ubisoft's Snowdrop engine and its misuse in handling multi-thread work so much that the Special K project mod was originally created just for that and offered substantial increased performance from a modder. You have the Frostbite engine, EA's monolith, that got forced onto developers like a state-sanctioned steroid plan that somehow leaked onto national chess competitors. This got pushed onto people that absolutely shouldn't have been using it within the development structure of that company. Some of these engines made for specific things don't have the flexibility that each dev at a company may require for the type of game that they want. We even hear horror stories about the same engine seeing reiteration after reiteration, like rebuilding a car on the same bent frame, until bugs from generations ago still exist in current versions of the remakes. Gamebryo. However, we do have some successes. Like I said, the Vermintide devs, I think they've done a great job with that game. It's original and the sequel. Not all the time though, but many times singular engines just don't end up being a strength over many years. At some point they end up falling to the wayside, like Telltale Games talking about making their games and having issues with that particular engine. My grandpa was a wicked tennis player, but I wouldn't teeter him out there 10 years after his prime, and I certainly wouldn't ever think, man, this dude's great at tennis, let's see how he is at baseball. They both have balls, but that's about all when it comes to similarities. So I do get the worry, but I do want to remind people of just how many issues we've had elsewhere with a lot of these particular singular engines that have been developed. We really don't have to look any farther also for excitement than companies like the developers behind the game Ascent, which I've covered before. Their discussions about the blueprint system in Unreal and how it worked within Unreal, and their ability to look at it and quickly identify what worked for them, but also it allows for them to completely tear it apart, use that as some kind of skeleton, and then make their own blueprint, hence the name, but also to create their own and be able to adjust it and modify it within that engine quickly. Iteration and proof of work is a thing in game development as well, and being able to show tangible results can matter for finances. It can also just matter when you're trying to explain to somebody, hey, this game idea I have, it's excellent, and when you hear some of these horror stories about it taking 6 hours for an animation that only should have taken 1 hour, when you want to show tangible results, you want something that allows for you to do that. And that's why a lot of developers are pretty excited about Unreal. Another thing to remember is community. The community around the Unreal Engine, it's pretty massive. That community won't be there just for particular game developers like we see at a lot of companies where they're all worrying about the same exact problem with an engine. Here it's now worldwide, finding errors, finding improvements, ways in which you can adjust, how you can make the game fit within particular requirements, are also something that there's a far higher chance of finding someone else who's run into your issue and having that be widely circulated. I think another reason for the excitement you see is that, especially with Unreal 5, you look at the adjustments, the improvements like Nanite, their lighting systems, their uptake even in the movie industry. I think that excitement's awesome. I think we see it from other people, but there are some worries there. And certainly we cannot ignore the royalty system that Epic has and that structure there that might not necessarily be misused, but certainly does make people worry about how games will come out on particular systems. For example, the structure currently is that if your game has a particular amount of money, up until $1 million, you don't pay any royalties. Then after that, you do. But there's also some ways in which you can end up getting less, or at least a removal of some of the fees if you actually release on the Epic Store, which I can see a lot of people not really being happy that the Epic Store and Unreal are that closely tied together. I mean, admittedly, you open up the Epic Store and there is Unreal for you to download in their editor section. So I absolutely get everybody's worry there. And I think it's something to be noted and something that we should remember forever. Also, they do have an enterprise program and custom licenses, of which we don't really have any background on exactly how that is. It's a little like Game Pass, where they have some specific instances and ways in which you can do deals with them. I bring all this up because for developers, on a purely technical standing, this is a win. Nanite, the lighting systems, moving to something that has a larger base, both within the developer community as well as just the support and modder community. It's got an enormous flexibility, which I think helps everybody. There's a worry, I think, in a lot of people's minds that the games, how they perform, look, or somehow they're going to be marginalized and in some way sort of artistically averaged down. They're going to be mowed of their originality until they remind us of the gray and brown games of the Xbox 360 era. One thing to remember about particular game engines at that time and the way everything was working is they were also working under very particular memory constraints for textures and other things, which just actually not only isn't a thing anymore, but Nanite and the various other structures in Unreal are particularly useful against those issues. As with all games, we should judge them on the game as it arrives to us and hope for the continued support of other engines, as well as a competition, driving those other engines' creators to continue to move forward in their own offering. I do not expect Unity to magically disappear. I absolutely don't. I think Crytek isn't necessarily as known, but they have some strengths, and we certainly do see them. It'll be interesting to see exactly where they come from and how they end up attacking these large changes that Unreal is actually delivering and these large companies that are moving to them. I think that competition is awesome. I just think it's something that I'll keep an eye focused on in the future as we move forward. I will say this, though, as somebody using the Unreal Engine currently, messing around, doing various things, testing out stuff that I've talked to developers about, there's a lot of awesome here. There's also a lot of awesome in Unity. I'm sure somebody would say there's a lot of awesome in Frostbite, but you'd have to really prove that to me. But I do get excited about their excitement and their idea of moving forward and seeing if maybe, just maybe, this sort of steps them back into quicker iteration times and the ability to get those games out more smoothly and with less bugs. Whether that's true or not, well, jury's out, but that's my hope. Anyway, I hope you guys like these videos. If you want to check out anything on Unreal, go to their website. You can check it out. You can see what people think of all this. Various developers are talking about it. Check out Unity. Check out Game Dev Maker. Check out Crytek. They all have their various different engines, and I really do suggest to you, if you get a chance, download one of them and start messing around, because it's always cool to understand whenever you're talking or listening to somebody talk who's a developer and they talk about gray boxing. You're able to do that in moments in these editors and sort of see what they're talking about and the difficulties, for example, in making a door, which is hilarious, but as we found out from multiple devs, is one of the most difficult things to do in games. So I hope you guys like these videos. Please give it a thumbs up if you like it. Share it if you like it. Comment. I would love to hear you comment on it. Remember, you can always check out my Reddit. It'll be a link in the description. Jump there if you want to talk more. Or, of course, join the Patreon, which helps me make you guys videos like this, as well as many others. You can jump in, you can stream some games, play some D&D, talk to people in a cool environment. Peace out.